And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at The Menace Among Us from Smirk and Dagger Games. The Menace Among Us, which by the way is a great name. I like the name, The Menace Among Us, The Menace Among Us. I don't know why I like it so much. But this is a game in which you're on a spaceship and some person's a menace. They're a traitor, a butcher, a contagion, and they're trying to ruin everything. The ship is already having problems of its own. You're all trying to fix it. Everyone's working together except somebody probably isn't. And you think, well, this doesn't sound completely new. There are many games that do this. Yeah, there are many games that do this. Specifically, one of the most famous ones is Battlestar Galactica. This is not set on an intellectual property like that is. This is more silly, cartoony style artwork. But it is a game that is made for a larger group of players, although you can play it with only 4. It's 4 to 8 players, and you're trying to figure out and eliminate the menace or keep them from causing problems while keeping the ship upright and everything going fine. Here's a little bit of info as to how it plays. In this game, players are going to be given a roll card. Some of the roll cards are going to be the menace. So it depends on how many players. It will depend if there's a menace, specific cards are going to go in. Everyone's going to get one of these cards. Now, these cards are going to come with a pre-built deck. So each card that you take, you'll build a deck, and then you'll shuffle these decks around the table a little bit, and players will take one. And then you're going to look at your thing. So let's say, for example, I got the Reckless. This is my goal. I'm a crew member, so I'm a good guy of sorts. I win when the crew reaches the energy goal, and I need to complete the primary goal with 11 or fewer cards in my deck. And then there's a few other things on here, and then down here it tells me what comes in my starting deck. Then players are going to draw 3 characters, and there are a ton of different characters in the game. Each character has various actions that they can take, but they also come with another bunch of cards that you will add to your deck. So say, for example, I pick the Cabin Boy here. So the Cabin Boy combined with the Reckless is going to build my deck like this. Now everyone knows these cards are in my deck because I'll have this so everyone can see it. But everyone does not know what other cards are in my deck. But I'm going to have this deck that will be shuffled, and I'm going to be using this over the course of the game with these various cards. Now players are going to be taking turns. One player is going to be the mission leader. And what players are trying to do is they are trying to accomplish their mission without the oxygen getting to 0%. That would be bad because everyone would die. On the other hand, you are trying as a crew to get your energy all the way up here to 100% because if you do that, you'll win. Now the Menace is going to be slightly different than this. The Menace does not want this to happen. The Menace wants everyone to die. So each round of the game, players have 3 different actions that they can take. They can draw a card into their hand. Sometimes you'll be forced to do this because you're going to be running out of cards in your hand, although you can't have more than 4 cards. You can play a card in front of you. It says these cards are considered below deck actions. These cards are going to be collected and revealed at the end of a round, shuffled, so you're not sure who is what. Also, you're going to be adding cards from this deck here. There's the emergency maintenance assistant, a robot that wants to make sure the ship goes well or keep going. And so if the number of face down cards that are played is less than half the number of players, you'll add cards from this deck equal to the difference. Now this deck is made up at the beginning of the game of a lot of good cards like raise morale, but also bad cards like panic or airlock breach. And so these cards may be added. And then players also have some above deck actions that they can take, and those are listed on their thing. So for example, once on a future turn this round, you may assist the player when they use an above deck action. That player ignores the cost of that action. Well, that's pretty handy, so I can do that. If I was the comms officer, I could lower oxygen to let each 2 different crew members draw a below deck action card. Or I can make the energy go down 1 to examine an unresolved below deck action card that's in play to check on somebody else. After everyone has done this, you'll take all the cards that were played, all the different below deck actions, you'll reveal them and do things. Some are good. They'll raise oxygen, or they'll raise the energy. And this one here, an advanced repair, raises the energy by 2. Some are bad. They're going to lower the oxygen. Or they're going to, a lot of them have costs of oxygen. So the basic repairs, for example, that you saw here, while this will raise the energy, will also cause oxygen to go down by 1. Advanced repair is much better. It makes oxygen go down by 1, but raises your repair by 2. Some things are bad. This says the first time each round a backstab is revealed, the mission leader gets a wound. So whoever's the mission leader is going to have to add the top wound card. And it says as long as you have this wound, you may not speak as a crew member in the game. You can still clarify roles, but that's it. So these can be pretty negative. Let's take a look at another wound here. A flesh wound. Well, that's not so bad. It has no other effect. I like flesh wounds. Or brain damage. As long as you have this wound, you must repeat the action type of the previous crew member this round. Now, a flesh wound is still bad because you don't want to get wounds. You get too many wounds, 2, and you're eliminated from the game. Now, you're not eliminated from the game that you could still win perhaps, but you're out. And so after all the cards and after all the actions have been played, there then is an optional round where you can decide if you think somebody is the menace, an accusation phase. You can just all talk about it. You just grab the voting pistol and you declare somebody, and there's going to be a vote. That's it. Once you grab this, that's it. We're voting on somebody. And everyone counts to 3, and you point at somebody. And that person, whoever has the most people pointed to, is going to be exiled. When somebody's exiled, they're no longer going to be able to do their above deck actions, which could be helpful. Their card is also going to be revealed. And for example, if this person here is exiled, the crew's going to lose 3 oxygen. If they're killed, the crew's going to lose 2 oxygen. Now the menace, when you exile them, you're going to get 2 oxygen as a bonus. But you got to be careful who you exile. And this is going to continue. Players are going to go back and forth. If the oxygen gets to 0, then the crew loses, the menace wins. If the energy gets to 100%, then the crew wins and the menace has lost. If the crew kills the menace, well, you still need to get the oxygen up, but you only need to get it up into 70%. So that's what that little red dotted line is for. And then that's the basic game. The advanced game, players also have other options that they may or may not have to do based on the different role that they have. And that's how you play. The game comes in a fairly big box, and that's because you have all these different decks of cards. If there's one negative about the game, it's you're going to be building these decks over and over and over the course of the game. You have all these cards, and players, you basically just pass them around, and it doesn't take that long, but you will be building a deck at the beginning of the game. You build one for each of the roles that's used. You then shuffle those. One person closes their eyes and shuffles them around, then everybody grabs one. And then after that's been done, you're going to build the deck based on your character and stuff. But I will say the cards, while they're okay quality, they seem to have held up pretty well. And I do like that they have white borders. And I like the fact that there is a ton of characters in this game. I also like that there's a lot of alien artwork here. I mean, yes, it's mostly bipedal aliens, but there's only, I think, 2 humans in the deck. Everybody else are just weird different aliens that look like they stepped out of an animated cartoon like Titan AE. They all have different special abilities, and you can take a character that you're not using that explains what the different cards do pretty simply and what you do in your turn. And that's a nice thing. The board itself is cool. Like I said, the component quality is good. I just might have made the box slightly smaller. Well, there you have it. That's it. It is a very simple game. But I like the Menace Among Us a lot, and I'll tell you why. At the very beginning of my review, I mentioned things like Battlestar Galactica, and there are games like that. Those games are big, overwhelming games. Not overwhelming, but they can be, right? They're big, long, grandiose games. The Menace Among Us is a 40 to 60 minute game. Emphasis on very possibly 40 minutes. It's a fast and furious game of trying to figure out who the bad guy is, and it's just silly fun. See, everyone's deck has a couple bad cards in it. you're going to have to play these bad cards at some point. You may get a whole hand of them. And so you like, all right, look, guys, I was forced to play a bad card this time. And everyone's like, sure you were. Not to mention, you could say, well, I just won't play bad cards. But if you don't play bad cards, that AI robot in the middle will throw cards into the mix. And then, of course, the people who did play cards are looked at as very guilty. And in one game I was in, we were certain that one player was guilty, and it was the computer that had messed us up that round. Here's the thing. Unlike many of these games, if the Menace player doesn't really push to destroy things, or multiple Menace players, or people who are on their team, or what have you, the ship will do fine. As long as players play properly, they'll look at their things, they'll play fine. There'll be some problems, there'll be suspicion, but they'll play fine. So the Menace player has to make an effort to destroy the ship and do so without being outed. The thing is, they are helped by the fact that the AI robot will get things done, and that helpful or not, and that players' cards themselves push things down, and there's this air of tension that just resides in the game. And I like it. This air of tension for me gets a little draining after 2 hours, but in a 40 to 60 minute game, it works really well. Smirk and Dagger is a master at making these little games that you can, you're backstabbing each other. This is not really little, as I said. It's a big box here, but the game itself is not that big, and it's the kind of game that you can bring out and play in between other things that are going on. I like it a lot. I think it's one that hasn't got a lot of buzz, but it's completely entertaining. And one of the things I enjoy about it is there's very few of these point the finger at other people and accuse them games that work for only 4 players, and this one does. I think this game scales quite well. So cool artwork, fun theme, fun game. If you want to play a social deduction game that with a little bit of maneuvering and that really plays differently every time because of different characters and different roles, I highly recommend The Menace Among Us. Dice Tower Judgment, approved!
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching the Dice Tower.